URL for the live stream yet?
I need to do it right now, but otherwise we are actually on live. We are live right now.
Great. Can I start?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. So my proposal here today is to introduce the general situation of classical philology in Brazil in the context of the recent expansion in higher education.
So, Lucia, do we want to move the computers so you're facing the microphone?
No, Mac is a good microphone.
Okay.
No needs.
Good.
Okay. Okay. And in the specific case of the university where I work, where we are trying to find new approaches to how classics is taught in the country. So I admit that my interest here, and I'm really happy to be here, lies more in the fact that I can share this experience and talk with the other participants about these new possibilities. So for this reason, I really would like to thank the organization of the workshop for allowing me to present this paper and to be here, even though I'm pretty clear I'm an outsider to this group. I was also pretty lucky to be in Berlin right now in a research visit to Humboldt University, so I could be here today. So in the year of 2007,
Sorry. Sorry for that.
Lower that. Yes.
great, thank you. So, well, the slide is not completely there. But what is written there is restructuring and expansion of Brazilian federal universities. And from 2007 to 2012, there was a program announced by the Brazilian government to improve the conditions of higher education. And because of that, we had hiring of new professors in existing universities, but also infrastructure improvements, new universities, new campi, and new departments were created, and all of that was to allow increasing number of students to be part of public higher education system in Brazil, where traditionally the research projects are developed. Those courses, though, are mostly part-time courses, as a fundamental goal of this program was to allow workers to pursue higher education degree. So in 2009, the College of Humanities was founded at Unifesp, the Federal University of São Paulo, in a very industrial city, Guarulhos, in the outskirts of São Paulo. It's part of the greater São Paulo. And in 2009, it was founded, I would say 2007, and in 2009, the Department of Letters was founded. The students, we receive 200 students every year, and they don't have the opportunity to graduate in classics, but they have to take some obligatory courses in classics. So the obligatory courses are Introduction to Classical Literature, Elementary Greek, Latin, and Latin 2. So for this project, 2 professors were hired in 2009. Me, teaching Greek, and by then I was just beginning my PhD studies, and a Latin professor. Our career system in Brazil is totally different from Europe and the US. So it's not that uncommon to find professors who only have a master's degree, and this is called assistant professor, and then adjunct professors, they hold a PhD title. And we have stability after 2 or 3 years of working at the university. Because there's no teaching of Greek or Latin at all in high schools, all the contact with classical literature was through translated versions. From 2009 to 2014, we increased our number of classics professors at Unifesp. During this period, during these 5 years, the college faced 2 student strikes for better infrastructure conditions, and nowadays we are 7 professors. This reflects the fact that nowadays there is a growing interest in classics in Brazil. And to make it more clear, the University of São Paulo, which is a state university, it's not a federal one, therefore was not part of this program, has nowadays 28 professors of Greek and Latin, and these are all permanent positions. And ancient philosophy, archaeology, and ancient history, they are all located in other departments. Unifesp has nowadays then, as I told you, 7 professors of Greek and Latin, and that makes only in the city of São Paulo 35 permanent positions in classics. Most of the professors also do translation work, even if this is not their primary interest, as a way to make available these classical works. So if we compare to other European languages, there are not that many classical works translated to Portuguese. So just to give an example of that, in the past 5 years, 4 new translations, 4 new versions of the Odyssey were published in Brazil. And that makes now 6 versions of the Odyssey that there are available in bookstores. 2 others, they are also in print for decades now. And one of these versions of the Odyssey just was awarded with the most prestigious literary prize in the country. It is clear for us that we are going through a very specific moment in Brazil. And as I was part of a very new institution where everything was still to be decided, I cannot, and also my colleagues, not think about how to teach classics in the 21st century. However, our situation is also pretty specific, and the issues that we have to deal with are numerous. So our student profile at Unifesp, they have no previous knowledge of ancient literature or language. They will graduate in another field, so it's not possible for them to graduate in classics. They will graduate in Portuguese, French, Spanish, or English studies mostly. All of them, or most of them, have a part-time or even a full-time job. So it's possible for a student, for example, to study from 7:30 p.m. to 11 p.m. after a full day of work. They may not be able, and that is the case for a number of students, to read in any foreign language in the first 2 years of his or her studies. And they won't be able to teach Latin and Greek in secondary school. There's no classical language being taught in elementary or high school. And yet, more and more students are deciding to follow this path. They all want to study classics and pursue a graduate title. So one of the steps towards a new approach to classics at Unifesp was to create an interdisciplinary project that will probably start next year. So we want to encourage other students at our college. So there's also history, philosophy, history of arts, and social sciences. We want to encourage them, students from different majors, to have a broader perspective of classical studies, taking at least 1 semester of ancient literature, ancient philosophy, ancient history, history of ancient art, and 2 semesters of Greek or Latin. Even though this broader perspective is important by itself, I would say this mostly non-existent in undergrad studies in Brazil. And also, we would like to create circumstances to bring classics closer to other academic fields and to reflect on questions that are of interest of today's society through various theoretical approaches. We acknowledge this, however, to be only the first step to provide students the best possible learning conditions. So although this project will allow us to have more students taking introductory Greek and Latin courses, the question of how many of them will acquire enough knowledge to read original texts remains, as remain the questions of how to keep up the interest in classics in Brazil and how to make the best of our currently working conditions, while still having to face the fact that our soon-to-be graduate students won't be able to teach classics in secondary schools. I think Alice is not here anymore, but on Monday she mentioned Minimus, a project developed nowadays in Brazil to teach Latin and Greek in elementary school, but that is just one school in São Paulo. It is clear that digital humanities plays a fundamental role today, not only by creating new tools of research and learning or by making works accessible to a larger public, but also in the way research is made as a collaborative and interdisciplinary effort. However, despite the pioneering work of Anísio Ferreira at Unesp, Universidade Estadual de São Paulo, the use of digital resources in Brazil is very limited. While many scholars are discussing open data, we are still trying to make available, in several cases for the first time, translations of classical works in the old-fashioned way, that reach a smaller number of readers but count as publications for our CVs. Most of my colleagues and myself never went beyond the Perseus website, blogs, Moodle, text in PDF, or Facebook. Some of them will even refuse to use the slides in classes. The most used learning methods nowadays in the country are translations of the reading Greek, and this had already two versions. One was published in 2010, the second edition 2014, and Reading Latin that was published last year. And yet, every time I ask my students to write a paper, they will go to whatever resource they find online. They won't go to the library anymore. They are looking for, trying to find papers or books in PDF format in Google. For this reason, I think that although as I told you, I'm an outsider in this group, what brought me here was the fact that the possibility of becoming a digital humanities that I'm considering right now seems to me a very political decision and the best one to be made considering all the situation that we have in Brazil and the feeling that we have to make great efforts to keep up the interest in classics. That's it.
Questions? Barry?
I think you said that there's very little construction in secondary and elementary school. Isn't there in private schools?
Not even in private schools. I think there are very few. It's possible, I would say, that in São Paulo we would find that in not more than 5 private schools. And usually they are religious, somehow related to religious schools. And there's also one public school in Rio de Janeiro that still teach Latin, but that's all.
Remind us what the population of Brazil is?
It's almost 200 million.
So a huge population, all of whom speak a Romance language, all of whom have are direct connections to Greco-Roman culture, none of whom have the opportunity, virtually none of whom have the opportunity to work directly with those sources or to learn those languages in their native language. So huge opportunity and whole new departments appearing, needing an infrastructure to be localized. So hugely exciting thing to hear about.
I'm interested, which dictionaries can you use? And are there any initiatives to digitize any of them?
There's now almost translated. It is a translated version of the BAI, the small one, not the big one. But it's not affordable for the students because it was published in 5 volumes. This dictionary in Portuguese. There's also a small dictionary Portuguese from Portugal, but it's really not that good. So mostly our students will be using the BAI or the Linux Scotch. And as regarding the digital experience, I'd say that Anise Ferreira, the professor at Unesp in the countryside of São Paulo, has been doing a lot of work with her students, but she's been working, I think, by herself for some years now. And of course, there's so much work to be done, and it needs more people.
And she could use some help, and yes.
Yes.
One question. In your slide, you had mentioned that you teach elementary Greek and also Latin 1 and Latin 2, which is the difference. So Latin is not elementary, or you differentiate between elementary
okay.
and Latin 1?
Yeah, sorry. I just wrote elementary Greek and Latin 1, Latin 2 because it's how the courses are called. And that's why I wrote elementary Greek. But I would say the students have the opportunity to learn Latin better than Greek because it's just, for Greek they have 2 hours a week, and for Latin they have 4 hours a week and for 2 semesters. So, and right now the situation is much better because we have more people working. But when I started working in 2009, I had 2 groups of 100 students in one classroom, so it was really difficult to work with. I mean.
And your university offers an opportunity only for major field of studies and not so-called minor.
Yeah, that's how the higher education system in Brazil is like that. There's no minor and major. Just
because it could be very helpful for field classes.
I have questions on content with 2 hours of break per semester. So, I mean, compared to maybe standard teaching books like reading Greek or something, how much of the grammar are you actually able to cover in 2 hours a week for 1 semester?
Yeah, not that much. They are mostly able to see the second declination, and at least they have contact with the cases, all of them, but, and of course, only present. But now with more people working at university, it will be possible to teach more advanced courses, and students will finally have the opportunity to get in touch with the original text.
It's just using the medium of the IRS system.
Well, I think this is huge. The boggles the mind, the possibilities, if we have a decent infrastructure, a modern infrastructure for the study of Greek and Latin. You know, we should have asked Anna Crone to give a presentation about teaching Greek and Latin, teaching people to work with Greek and Latin immediately before they studied Greek when they had access to an aligned translation and some of the tools that we have that would really be helpful in this context.
Yeah, definitely, especially because reading in Latin and reading Greek, they are very slow methods until the students have contact with the original text. Takes a long time.
Well, I think we may actually come back to this topic in general at the next talk with Martine.
Yeah.
So thank you. Thank you. Sure.
Hi there.
Okay. Martin,
Okay.
I think we can hear you. Can you speak?
Yeah. Are you listening? You have the sound over there?
Yes.
Hello?
We can hear. We can hear you. Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be participating of this Congress. I'm really happy to do it. I found really interesting the proposal of this Congress. It's quite hard to have the opportunity to talk about ancient Greek didactics and my experience as a teacher. So, and it's really interesting that I can be here in my city, so far away, talking and listening to you. So I'm going to talk about this context with the new technologies, the internet, the computer new technologies, but I will really talk about other two in this context that I found really important. That is the teacher himself. I think that the new technologies can help us and power this experience with the teacher, but the teacher is really important because he has the capacity to be creative and stimulate the relation with other human beings that is so important in the didactic field. So I think it's in this context the technologies can help this role of the teacher. I'm going to share with you my material here, just a little bit. Okay. Are you getting it there?
Yes.
Okay. So it's quite simple. I'm going to talk about the experience, my personal teaching experience in Salvador. It's the capital of Bahia in northeast Brazil. It's really good because Lucia have talked a lot of things about the ancient Greek and classics in Brazil, so I don't have to talk it again. But in my region, there is a lot of difference between the regions in Brazil. So northeast, it's a undeveloped area economically, but in other areas too. So compared to the University of São Paulo, we don't have a very good library, we have a lack of materials and things like that. But it's a city that has a very strong influence of other cultures, African cultures, indigenous culture, and sometimes people think that it will be a problem, but in my experience as a teacher, I found it the opposite. I think it's very interesting to see how this culture can create some interesting in the students. I had a lot of students, for example, that participate in Afro religions here in Bahia, and they just get fascinated by the Greek religion because they are both polytheists and they are both they both worship gods of nature and things like that. So it's interesting to see how links, unexpected interests raise up in this kind of context. So I think that the issues that we have here, economic issues, and this lack of material can also be a powerful, brings powerful possibilities, unexpected possibilities of how work with ancient Greek. And I have produced a lot of material with my students, always trying to bring them to explore the personal interests that not always the traditional material can explore. But at the end of this part, I'm going to make a provocation, because here it's an unlikely place to study ancient Greek, but seems to me that every place is kind of unlikely. You know, every place have his own particularities, and so the teacher had this work on being talking to people and finding the better way of teaching this language and this literature in the context that he is. So, Lucy, I have talked a little bit of it too. It's a lot of my students don't have the intention of being Greek teachers. Most of them studied philosophy or anthropology or things like that. So this kind of different interests and profiles just make richer the experience of teaching ancient Greek, because we can make a lot of dialogues. And I think the important thing I have to say that today is that the material have to help us to make this dialogue, to make the interest evolve. The people that don't necessarily are going to teach ancient Greek, they can also study for some time and inspire other people. So the first step is to know your students, to talk with them. Most of them like some author or had some specific interest in history or anthropology. So most of the materials we are using here in Salvador, the translation of reading Greek too, but it's just one view of the Greek culture, and most of the time people have other interests too, so you have to bring another material to produce material, and the teachers so have this role to research and to learn how to use the technological resource to himself use this resource to produce new material, to found a material that can be used with his students. So many times I am translating, adapting, and using materials for different authors from different languages with my students. It's something hard most of the time, because every method has his own order of presenting the grammatic of Greek, and you have, it's difficult to get the exercise of one method and use when you are working with other. So you have sometimes to make new material and to adapting the material you have, put a little bit more of vocabulary, or taking off a little bit of vocabulary that is not necessary for those students specifically. And there's a lot of ways of create these materials. I think the main one I have been using is just translation exercise, specific translation exercise. So I have a student that is studying Epicurus, and then we got a little bit of his text. I used the technological research in the internet to make more quickly my work of preparing this material, this translation exercise, so I can use the vocabulary that I know she can read. So I create this translation exercise knowing how much my students need of vocabulary and what I can ask for them, and I can do that thinking about what they really interested in. But there is other ways too, like supplementary graphics and schemas. This is important too, because most of the students don't have a very good basis. They don't know very well the ancient Greek literature and culture panorama. So it's important to them. It gives some kind of keys that they can use to start the studies, and some morphological and syntaxis exercises and explanations, because most of our material is translated. So sometimes they just don't fit to Portuguese and to our necessities, and some ludic and creative material too. I'm going to show some to you really briefly. This is one panorama of archaic and classic Greek literature that I have made for my students this semester. It put different colors so the student can see different traditions in the time and how they mix, things like that. It's important to encourage and to give some resource to the students. I know you will read this, but these are just translation and morphosyntactic specific exercise that explain some things that in Portuguese are important, and some methods that are translated from English or from French don't have how to take it on. And that's another translation exercise, but with an image. I have got this from Robert Crumb's Genesis. So I have take out the Portuguese text and put in the place the Greek text. So it's interesting. There's a lot of students who have this religious interest in ancient Greek, and beyond this, there is a aesthetical delight of these graphics. So sometimes it's good to use this resource. And this another one I have used that in a test, a little play. So everyone knows Calvin and Hobbes, and here I make some play with some phrases of Heraclitus. Calvin is asking everything flows, my friend. And and Hobbes is answering while it changing, it rests. So it makes a kind of joke with the problem of the theory of flux in Heraclitus. It's kind of a way to bring some discussion, some philosophical discussion in the classes of ancient Greek. I think that's really important, and so we have to make some time to a little bit of the digression too, and give the opportunity of the students to think about, to know about some authors. And so I think that's maybe you can have some that these examples can show you a little bit what I'm thinking about. To conclude, I think that the teacher's role in this context to access a larger broad of material and bring some to his students, it's really important, because it's not, ancient Greek is not just for specialists, for scholars. In my point of view, most of people have some interesting. I found really interesting, because here we don't have this tradition, but people are always asking, and it's really new to everyone. So everyone is thinking, excited about it, about ancient Greek, this new thing here, and the teacher has this important role of putting the seed and taking care of this development of the interest of each student. So it's that. Thank you.
I mean, it really is amazing. You describe, there's no tradition, and here you bring it, and people are starting to flower. You say the seed in each individual student and the seed in the culture, and people are drawn to this material. And all the work that you and Gia and your fellows and these are doing, in isolation. Questions? Yes, Harry. And I will repeat your question, Harry, as you're in the back, so it'll be clear.
It's really on a comment that I can't forego pointing out that the only modern language that on our home page in Alpheus as its own portal is Portuguese.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Don't worry, I'll repeat that for you.
Okay.
So Harry just made a comment, an admiring comment that Eric Diakov, in charge of Alpheus.net, with some pioneering tools. They have a number of languages there, but the only language with its own portal is Portuguese. And again, he brings that up, I think, as evidence or an indication of the energy and the creativity that's coming from this rising nation. So it's just awesome.
Anis Ferrara.
Anis Ferrara. Anis Ferrara, who is a mine of energy and creativity. I hope you're listening, Anis. Greetings from Germany.
Okay.
Okay. Other questions? Well, I think that everyone's filled with admiration for what you're doing, and our only hope is that we're going to be able to figure out how to help you do more with yourself and in conjunction with your fellows and with us here in Europe. But our congratulations and thanks for everything you're doing. So thank you, Martin.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, next speaker.
How do I change slides?
Which one?
December presentation.
Okay, just wait a moment. Full screen slideshow. With the arrows.
Maybe the board ship.
We see arrow.
With this arrow?
Yes.
Cool.
Beautiful. You're good to go.
Hi, my name is Stella D, and I'm a research associate here at the Open Philology Project in Leipzig. My undergraduate background was in archaeology and international comparative studies, and my master's background is in digital humanities. Full disclosure, my mother is a middle school English teacher in an under-resourced, predominantly black middle school in St. Louis, Missouri, and my father is a high school English teacher at a extremely well-endowed, predominantly white high school in St. Louis, Missouri. So I would just like to set this presentation in the context of ongoing events there. I was looking at the prompt, how do we make Greco-Roman culture accessible to a global audience? What barriers of language and culture must we address to support students of Greek and Latin beyond Europe, North America, and the traditional Western world? And it occurred to me that I see massive barriers of language and culture within North America, particularly within the United States, and particularly with respect to race. What do I mean when I say race? I define race here as a social construct with enormous power, but no biological basis. And in this presentation, I make use of racial categories as they are generally perceived in the continental United States. I apologize to the many, many of you in this room who are not from the continental United States and might not have a clear understanding of what those categories are. So I'd just like to go through the structure of my presentation. First of all, I'll be talking about what community and communities I'm going to be focusing on. And then three strands that I think have worked together to create the current situation of classics in the United States, which is popular perception of classical thinkers and writers, the historical realities of those thinkers and writers, and then the history of the reception of those thinkers and writers, again, in a United States context. And then finally I'll address responsibility. To what extent can and should a digital philologist actively seek to undo damaging societal misperceptions influenced by their field? To what extent can and should a digital academic open philologist engage with digital non-academic spaces? And what are the consequences of doing so and failing to do so? And again, ultimately, the answer to the question of responsibility is a deeply personal one, but I do hope that all teachers, especially those teachers in the United States, think hard about them. First of all, community. And again, most of the thinking in this presentation is deeply influenced by the Midwest, which is the context I'm most familiar with, and somewhat by the American Southeast. And the community I'm thinking of is really students, particularly elementary and secondary school students, as those were some of the new audiences mentioned in the workshop prompts. Also research scholars, the interested and potentially interested public, and especially those who are actively harmed by the status quo. In the United States, this being above all Black Americans, and those actively creating the systemic status quo, this being above all white Americans. Again, for those of you in other parts of the world, I hope there's some parallels that you can think about and maybe talk about later on. So to continue, this is a community in which few identify as having direct material ties to ancient Greece and Rome. This, I think, is very different than in the Middle East, Europe, or North Africa, where you can maybe dig up stuff in your backyard, say a Roman inscription, a Greek inscription, that gives you some kind of direct tie to that. So in the US, it's much more, any connection to Greek and Roman heritage is much more imagined, which is not to say it's unreal, it's just not material. Cultural persistence, often people cite Greco-Roman heritage in the US as being somehow tied to a European Christian culture, but the cultural persistence among Christian European immigrants in the US has been shown by sociologists to be something of a myth. Moreover, the official language of the US is, of course, English, which is Germanic. So despite many loanwords from ancient Greek and Latin, there's also no direct linguistic tie to Greco-Roman culture. So given this situation, why are white Christian Americans seemingly overrepresented in the study of ancient Greek and Latin in the United States if no one US social group has an exclusive or definitive claim? And I think the answer to this question really starts with some combination of this perception, history, and reception. So to go on with perception, this is just some pictures from popular culture online. Most of the pictures are taken from an article actually published in the UK called Homer to Plato, Boris Johnson on the 10 Greatest Ancient Greeks. And one is of Plato from the Internet Sacred Text Archive. And obviously any racial judgment about these people is highly subjective and extremely superficial. And I'm judging it here by a if they tried to catch a cab in Chicago question. If they tried to catch a cab in Chicago question, my guess is that most of these people would be perceived as white. A colleague of mine in Leipzig pointed out that this way of analyzing the perception of Greek and Roman thinkers is not very data-driven and not very quantitative. I would say that's absolutely right as a critique. Had I had more time, it would be a very interesting thing to do, to go around and compile a bigger sample size of these pictures. But I can tell you that from my intuition and experience as an almost lifetime resident of the US, I suspect this is fairly representative of what you find in popular culture. But it is more complicated. So I think the case of Aristotle's Wikipedia entry is a great example. On the far left, you have an early Islamic portrayal of Aristotle, who is on the right, that he's talking to Alexander the Great on the left. In the middle, you have Aristotle portrayed in the 1493 Nuremberg Chronicle as a scholar of the 15th century CE. And on the far right, you have the 18th, 19th century portrait of Aristotle. So I think that this is a perfect example of the fact that readers tend to picture these writers and thinkers in their own image, and depiction reflects cultural context of reader. This suggests that there might be a positive feedback loop if we have greater diversity in the students and academics talking about these figures. It might change the popular perception. So the reality, I'm not going to spend too much time on this because I'm talking to a room, I think, of many classicists, and much of this is more scholarly, or I should say more well known in the scholarly community. First of all, that the majority of ancient Greeks and Romans did not consider themselves white, that the social taxonomies they created are more analogous to modern understandings of ethnicity, not race. Finally, innumerable people who would in the United States of today be considered black played an active role as citizens of the ancient Greek and Roman territories. However, the self-identification of ancient Greeks and Romans as non-white did not prevent them from holding negative and bigoted ideas about those with darker skin than their own, in an early form of what we would today call anti-blackness. All of these are obviously open to debate, and I would be happy to take them up in the questions later. But I think these are fairly well accepted within the scholarly community, but fairly not talked about in popular culture. So again, while some or all of this may be taken for granted by scholars, we cannot assume it to be universally known. And I think this not having this talked about in popular culture is leading to some of what we see. The map I was referring to is this map. I would guess, again, this is just a guess and intuition, it would be interesting to do some kind of study to see if this could be supported, is that not very many Americans would know that, say, Tunisia and Libya are included in this map, and that Finland, say, is not. So receptions. Why are the representations in popular culture so different from historical reality? And I think a lot of this has to do with the history of reception. Classics in the United States grew out of a white Christian male attempt to retain European heritage, and it was heavily focused on education, particularly the education of the Christian clergy. At the same time, it's important not to throw the baby out with the bathwater in this history, because there was a very strong focus on pedagogy that I think we're returning to. So the quote I quoted here is, "The disregard for pedagogy as a window onto the scholarly life of the past is a result of our own preoccupations with scholarship rather than teaching, our concern for the publications of professors rather than the idea publications of professors rather than the ideas they can convey to their students. These concerns, however, are anachronistic." Classics in the U.S. was also influenced by the history of race, racism, and slavery in the U.S., and subject to mainstream political bias, sometimes in unexpected ways. For example, anti-German sentiment in the context of World War I diverted some attention away from the ancient Greeks, who for so long had been identified with German New Humanism. If you're interested in this, I highly recommend that you check out the book below, Culture of Classicism, Ancient Greece and Rome in American Intellectual Life. But again, the story is more complicated, because despite this history of reception, African Americans have still continued to engage with classical art, literature, and its legacy. On the left, you see William Sanders Scarborough, who was born a slave before he went on to earn his BA and MA in classical studies, and his Greek textbook achieved a national reputation. He was also a member of the American Philological Association and the first black member of the Modern Language Association. Upper right, you see a Bearden painting. Bearden was an artist who was part of the Harlem Renaissance, and he did a whole series inspired by the Odyssey. This is Odysseus leaves Circe. And then on the bottom right, you see a quote by Marcus Garvey, again engaging, although he's engaging in a negative way with Greece and Rome, saying that they have robbed Egypt of her arts and letters. Again, he is engaging in this intercultural dialogue, and it shows that he saw Greece and Rome, I would say, to have a continued cultural influence in the society at the time. And the interest, I think, goes on to the modern day. These are also probably resources to explore later. I expect I don't have the time to get into them now. But I suspect that some people in this room are familiar with the book, The Black Athena. That sparked a continued conversation on social media. Whether or not you agree with the book is neither here nor there, but it struck a chord, I guess is what I want to say. There's also a wonderful blog, People of Color in European Art History, by an academic who's pulled together a whole range of resources from a bunch of open sources and engages with a huge community of readers on this topic. So moving on to responsibility, it's too bad Thomas Kuntjes left, because I loved his jointless animal argument from yesterday, where students were more willing to believe that a jointless animal could exist than that Aristotle, it was Aristotle, right? Who was it? Caesar. Caesar was lying. And I think this really demonstrates that classical sources do influence students' perception of reality, as does criticism or lack thereof by their teacher. These are what I see. How are we doing for time?
It's a good question. You should start to
wrap up.
Yeah.
Okay. These are some of the central questions. I'll just mention that I think they really all boil down to what extent is a discussion of race encouraged in classics classrooms. Because I think regardless of whether the legacy is positive or negative, the most important thing is that the conversation is being had. And the thing most likely to prevent people from engaging with the community as a whole is if the conversation isn't there at all. These are some of the related questions that I see that I don't think we have time to get into, but hopefully the slide has now been up long enough that if you want to return to the slide on YouTube, you can do so. I would encourage you to discuss this because that's really what I'm hoping to do with this conversation, is just spark a dialogue within this community. For example, if you're a teacher, do you discuss race in your classroom? Why or why not? Especially if you're in the US. If you're building a digital edition or giving an online biography of people, do you consider race in your choice of image, and do you discuss race in a contextual biography? Why or why not? To what extent do you think a digital philologist can and should actively seek to undo damaging societal misperceptions influenced by their field? To what extent do you think a digital academic open philologist can and should engage with digital non-academic spaces? And what are the consequences of doing so and failing to do so? And again, to those of you outside the United States, are there analogous questions in your context? What are they, and what do you feel to be your role and responsibility? And I'm just going to go through some of my sources slowly, so you can return to them on YouTube if you're interested. In the meantime, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to start asking them.
Well, it's certainly a wonderful talk, and well, much needed. Questions?
Just a comment.
Yeah, please.
This concept reminds me of what it was Said said about technology.
Yeah.
So this is striking me because you are saying the same thing. Very similar things about the reception of creative wrong in the States.
Mm-hmm.
So it's amazing to see how far we are more on the reception away from the mean. That's the very so I like it.
I love Said, and I think Said is still very relevant in America.
I can't help but say, I always talk about how I can't stand watching, I have a hard time watching movies about the Greco-Roman world in English, because they always have English accents, or accents from the British Isles. And of course the Romans should have American accents. But even, and the Greeks have British accents. But Oliver Stone has, has accents of the British island when he makes Alexander, and that reflects a deep-seated idea that the study of Greek and Latin is to participate in a sort of exclusive white Anglo-Saxon culture. And in fact, knowledge of Greek and Latin was a way to participate in the administrative system of England and of North and Western Europe, which basically imposed white European power on the rest of the world. So we have a really rotten guilt by association in our reception, we being students of the Greco-Roman world.
We didn't repeat the question or the comment actually for the people who are listening online. So I don't know if you want to. There was just a comment from the IRC channel. So I don't know if you want to try to summarize it for us.
You want to?
Please.
So Osama just pointed out that what we have is what we're talking about here is very much what Said was talking about in a different context, and about the reception of Greco-Roman culture and of culture in general. And we'll be hearing from Osama a little bit later about the study of Greek and Latin in Egypt. So it's going to be a great follow-on, I think.
From the other side of
Yeah, just a quick comment. I'm just going to repeat what I commented in my review, is that it's important to understand that this is not just a social justice issue, but that it really goes to the core of reducing bias that we have in studying. And it's really about getting to a more true representation of how the world was, and thereby a more true understanding of this, what we're studying, the subject of our study.
Yeah, I would say you could approach it from.
So repeat that for them.
Can you just come over here?
Well, I'll just say what Frederick just said was it's not just about social justice, important as that is, it's about getting a more accurate and fuller understanding of the past, and that fuller understanding of the past will give us the truth that will set us free, I think, is to paraphrase what Frederick was saying. Thank you.
We have a question from IRC as well.
Please.
So someone at IRC said, okay, I'm persuaded there is a problem and we should address it. Oh, what we do next Monday to make progress on this problem?
I would say, personally, my response would be that totally depends on your context. It totally depends whether you're creating a digital edition or whether you're in the classroom or whether you're publishing a paper. So I don't think it's an easy solution, and I don't think there's just one, and I think it's so context dependent that I don't feel comfortable answering it without knowing more about what that person's context is.
Harry?
Just think of the classroom. Let's just restrict it to the classroom. I'm intrigued to follow up because it is the obvious question then.
Mm-hmm.
What can we do in any given context to make our perception more realistic? You pointed out in the beginning that the Greeks probably didn't have the conception of races that we do today. It was more ethnicity.
Then I would say a first step could be just asking students what their perceptions even are, to try to get a handle on that, and then addressing students wherever they may be at with respect to what their perceptions are.
Their perceptions?
Their perceptions of Greek and Roman writers and thinkers.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we probably better move on because we're running behind, but this is a major topic. Thank you very much.
Okay, just wait. Great. Well, I think it's moving on its own. I'll just skip back here. Great. Now it seems to stop. Great. So I'm another newcomer to this field, just like Lucha. And well, my reason for being here is that I found myself more or less forced into engaging with this field a couple of years ago when I was asked to digitize some text for one of my professors. And it all took turns, and now I ended up working on a digital edition of two Latin historiographers from Denmark. So that's my background for being here, but really I don't know very much about what's going on in the big community of digital humanities. But I will try to address three challenges that I have seen as major challenges to this field and to the field where I feel more at home, that is traditional classics, at the time in history where we are situated right now. First of all, there is the challenge that I think all classicists has in different ways tried to approach and meet all through history. That is the task of maintaining the role of classics as an essential and relevant part of society. This was, to some degree, taken for granted until maybe 100 years ago, at least on this continent and in North America. But I think most of us can in some way relate to this challenge in the situation today. The second one is the imperative of incorporating digital methods into this discipline of ours. I think that is one of the key solutions to the first challenge, but I'll return to that. And the third one is the challenge of creating a community of citizen scholars. We have been talking in different contexts about this opportunity to use the citizen scholar, but I think the absolute first thing we have to do is to create these citizen scholars if we want to appeal to them. Because I don't think they're just sitting there waiting for us, asking them to annotate text for us. One possible solution to this, and I would like to stress the word one in this context because I think there are multiple solutions, but one solution that I'm working with at the moment is to address students of other disciplines. I have experienced that a lot of students from a very diverse range of disciplines have an interest in my field of studies, but it is a very closed field of study in some ways. It takes time to learn Greek and Latin, and it's not something that you just decide to do and then you sit down and do it on your own. You need to be stimulated in this interest to approach these languages. As I have experienced this, and this is all very subjective, I've said I about 50 times by now, and I'll do it another 50 before I'm done. As I have perceived this interest, it rests on primarily two things. First of all, Greek and Latin is extremely relevant to a lot of academic disciplines. This is true for medicine, it's true for law, it's true for history, of course, philosophy. There are loads of disciplines they absolutely have to know something about our field of studies. And the other thing is that, that Latin especially, but also Greek to a bit lesser degree, at least in Denmark, has a status as part of what we in this country would call allgemeine Bildung. It is one of these languages that you're supposed to know so you can read the classics. These two factors actually give us some quite good opportunities for approaching these students, I think. The first one makes it possible to push them into making the effort of learning the languages because they're motivated. They want to read this text that they're working with for their master thesis or some other project. That's a great piece of motivation for them, I think. But the last one makes it possible for us to extend their horizons. We can make them go further than just this one text that they need to know in order to write their master thesis, because they have some sort of sense of obligation to know these things. You're supposed to. And I think, based on this view of their interest, I think there are two things that we can do. First of all, I think we have to lead them for a stroll down Plato's Straße in Leipzig. Now, of course, I mean we have to take them by the hand, and we have to teach them Greek and Latin, and we have to teach them something about the culture of these countries, because most of them have very little knowledge of the Greco-Roman culture. And very indirect knowledge, as we just heard, about these civilizations. But this is something that takes a lot of resources, and it's very bound to the geographical situation, the situation in the geographical area where they are placed. In some countries, like my country, we offer it, Denmark, we offer it in high school to some of our students, but not all. If you're situated in the north of Denmark, you probably won't be able to learn Greek and Latin in high school. If you are in the capital, Copenhagen, you will most definitely have this opportunity. So even there, within this tiny country, comprising only about 5 million people, you have huge differences according to where you're born. And our solution has been to simply offer it at university level. This means teaching them grammar. We start teaching them Danish grammar, because they don't know that, most of them, when they show up. And then we start teaching them Latin grammar, and this is done in 2 weeks. And then we go on to read texts that are relevant to them. In this case, I'm working with history students, so we read Danish historiographical texts, the 2 first chronicles of Danish history. And that's, of course, clearly relevant to these people, but you can do it with pretty much any text written in Greek or Latin. Another way of doing this that we'll hear more about is, of course, ancient Greek. That's a more universal approach to this. Each has opportunities, I think, for succeeding. The second thing, and the thing that I will focus on in this presentation is the second step. That is providing them with an access point for these texts that is designed to support a close reading of these texts. Because I think that is what our discipline is very much about. The reading and understanding of Greek and Latin texts. They will go on and use it for their purposes, but that's not our main concern. Our first concern must be to provide them with text that they can use. And I think such a portal should, if we succeed, completely replace the Loeb edition and editions like that, Reklam, 3D, stuff like that. Because I think that the digital media is absolutely suitable for this, and it can do what the Loeb has done for 100 years far better than the Loeb edition, because it offers us not only the opportunity of presenting them with the text and translations and commentaries in a more appealing way, but it could also offer them a gateway into the digital study of Greek and Latin. We could directly from these texts lead the students directly to sites where they could further explore these texts using other approaches to the text. For instance, search of big data or using GeoLat or something like that to explore the geographical universe that they're reading about. So I think that presenting them with text and linking them to more advanced and specialized resources is key to the success of introducing scholars and students of other disciplines to our field of study. And the backbone of this is, of course, to produce a reading application. And I think the most important part in producing such an application is to omit. We are thrilled with the possibilities of offering these people different choices and different pieces of information, but I think that one of the basics of teaching is to know when to shut up and not explain something. Just tell them you don't need to know this at this point. If you want to know it, you can find it there, but we can talk about that later. So I think my basic idea is to present it with 3 tracks of text: an original text in Greek or Latin, a translation, and a commentary. And they should be aligned on sentence level. And basically, this is what they get. They should be able to choose between different translations in the same language or in different languages, and between different commentaries in different languages. And it should be up to the user what they want to see at the moment when they're reading. And this should provide them with a way of reading the text, but also to access more information. I tried to do just a bit of photoshopping, copying a couple of text into a known design, but basically this is what I want to present them with. A very clean text that you can either see on its own, you can read either the translation or the original text, or you can read both. You can have the bilingual edition, and then from there they should always have the opportunity to choose any given sentence and be led to something like this, presenting them with the given sentence, highlighted in the original, the translation, and the commentaries pertaining to this particular sentence. I think this is essentially what we're looking for when we are sitting at our desks, having the text there, translation here, commentary here, dictionary here, and grammar there. This is what we need, and this is what digital text can provide us with, without filling up our desk. And if we add something like the Alpheus cursor model or a pop-up note system, we can provide them with morphosyntactic information as well and dictionary entries without doing anything that most of you people have already done. So this is basically just a question of how we present your work to these people in a better way. Of course, this can be developed further. My main wishes is to make this into some kind of social medium to allow people to contribute with work of their own. I don't think that it's necessary to put bars on what content can be submitted, but I definitely think that it should be possible to rate the content in there. And I think that then that people would vote for what they find useful, and that's all we need, because then you know where to go. And in the same spirit, you should of course be able to contribute your own single comments on the content there. And that would, I think, need a system for accepting or rejecting suggestions made to the work you have submitted, and for voting yes or no to commentaries pertaining to the text. So this is basically what I hope to be able to develop at some point. To wrap up, I'll say that by now we've only tested our EPUB version of such a text, which is quite insufficient to show the format in its full idea. But I hope to be able to work further with this. I've applied for a PhD where this is part of it, and I would be thrilled to hear any suggestions on how to make this real.
The first question I have to ask is, what PhD program were you able to get to that actually would take this seriously?
Well, they haven't yet, but a very nice professor of history at the University of Roskilde asked me to join in on a project and asked me to put this in the application. So it's part of my project as a whole.
Well,
and I'm hoping that the Danish Foundation for Research will think, okay, go on and do it.
What's the name of the professor?
Mia Münster Svendsen.
So Mr. Svendsen gets a shout out here from Leipzig. Good for you. So questions?
We have a comment from the chat.
Okay.
So again, for Mr. Fairhead, as usual, it says, yes, a reading application is a good idea. As a late learner of languages, what you describe is what I want. The user interface is saying very, very quickly. I suggest that the real backbone is APIs on top of which we can build reading applications. So I don't know if that's.
I need to know what APIs are first.
That's why you need a PhD.
The newcomer.
You started your presentation with a metaphor of digital lawyer. You're aware that the digital lawyer.
Yeah, I am. I'm aware how terrible it is.
Does it fit your needs, or what does it? What doesn't fit?
Well,
to repeat for the.
So the question. So Neven Jovanovic said you began with Digital Lobe and its limitations. What are those limitations in your mind?
Well, basically, it's a picture of a book. It doesn't get me anywhere where a book edition that I buy doesn't get me, and that's what's bothering me. Because I still have to go somewhere else and lose sight of the sentence that I'm working with, that I'm trying to understand, in order to reach the information I'm looking for.
And I should say, I did not influence Tway at all in what he said.
Harry? I was particularly delighted to see that you don't want to have much of a barrier to contribution, but have voting after that.
Okay. So Harry Diakov praises having voting after the fact to get the contributions out there, and then shoot them all first, and then let God decide.
It will change over time. The stock may rise and fall. What may be acceptable today may be discarded 10 years from now, vice versa. Some of your micro scholarships, the complaint yesterday that micro scholarship doesn't have a place in modern religion.
And Harry is defending micro scholarship. So one more quick question, and I think Osama, could we split you, because I think Walter has limited time, so you would go after Walter. So one more quick question. All right, if not, thank you very much. Well, I can't wait to see what the world will be like when you're my age. Older, whistle. Between classes. Yeah, so.
Okay, since you're here, Yeah, exactly. Is he on? Okay, we'll try to get him on.
just seen that. Walter, can you hear us? Walter, it seems we received no sound from you, despite the fact that you're not muted.
Yes.
Yes, that's me.
Oh. We're going to have, how many philologists does it take to start a video conference?
Okay, Walter, we see your video. It's perfect, but we can't hear you.
Yes.
Yes, we have heard something. Not you, but the sound of your computer at least.
It must be the microphone.
Okay, Walter is not answering to me.
I would suggest maybe we go ahead with Sama, and then we can test with go out.
Yeah, why don't you do that?
See if we can get
Okay.
sound going.
So Osama, we will go with you and we will test off out of the room.
Which one? This one?
Ooh,
Or this
where is the PPTX? Yes, the control box. No one. Could I have also the PDF?
I can't do both.
Okay.
So, just a moment. Share screen. Okay, I think it's...
Okay, just hi everybody. This is Peter Lassen in Egypt, and as you might know me, my name is Osama Gadam. I'm an assistant lecturer at Maintenance University, which is actually
the Arabic word of Heliopolis, Ain Shams. So, and now I'm working in my PhD in German in Heidelberg. Hopefully, October will be the end. What we do have in Egypt, first I will go to the main ideas of my talk. What we do have in Egypt of Greek and Latin infrastructure. Infrastructure, I mean faculties and students. And what we do lacking there. And of course, I cannot speak about Greek and Latin in Egypt. I cannot, and I not mention the School of Cairo University, which is the headquarters of the modern translation movement into Arabic. The medieval headquarters was in Baghdad, and it was a purely scientific one. Now we do have a school in Cairo University, which is literary one, and I'm very happy to have this in Arabic. And in my blog, I have gathered a lot of material, some of in copyright, some is not. And this should be some way in a digital form, to serve this concept of citizen science, because there's a lot of material there, and the people should get to know something about this. The third and the last idea is the relevance of both Greek and Latin and Arabic to our modern day world, to one another first, the transmission of manuscripts, and to the modern day world, and to the East and West. And I will highlight this with some examples. First, this is the geographical area I'm talking about. This is the Arabic world. And in the middle of this, we do have Egypt, and what we do have, this is the only Arabic country in which Greek and Latin are taught. To my knowledge, I don't know anyone in Libya and Sudan or any other Arab country who are involved in this. I mean, universities and students. And we have 25 state-funded universities in which there is established Greek and Latin or classical departments. And the universities are increasing. I hope there will be in every university Greek and Latin department. What about the faculty and teaching assistant, which is the backbone of this? We have about 1,000 faculty, established faculty, asatidza, professors, and teaching assistant. Teaching assistant in Egypt, you know, the graduates are appointed first as teaching assistants, and then assistant lecturer, and then when they have their PhD, they will be faculties, tenure track, just like the tenure track thing. But we have about 1,000 faculty and teaching assistants. This is plus, not minus. So the students of Greek and Latin, we have about 2,000 students at least. In my university, we have every year 500 students in Greek and Latin. So you have to imagine how much students do we have. This is a big problem for us. In Cairo University, it's good thing because they're accepting only 100 every year. So 100, 100, 100. In Ancient, in Heliopolis University, where I am working, the students are taught Greek, Latin, modern Greek, Italian, all the students are overwhelmed with languages, I have to say. But the concept is different in Cairo University, where they either Greek or Latin, they are taught Greek. Anyhow, in Heliopolis and Cairo University, this is sure numbers. We have at least 600 yearly, 600 students here. Of course, not all of them work in Greek and Latin, but anyway, we have this number. And in philosophy, history, archaeology department, and the other departments, German, for example, the students are learning Latin. And at least 1,000. At least 1,000. You know, I'm talking about the center because in Cairo University we have about 3 universities: Tripolis, Cairo, and Helwan University. So this is the center of Greek and Latin in this country. Alexandria, of course, has a different story because the Greek and Latin department is under and the archaeology department under the same umbrella because, of course, of the history of Alexandria. But anyhow, this is what we do have in this country, and to my knowledge, it's the only Arabic country in which we do have this. So it all began with a blind man, not Homerus, but again, this was a blind man, Taha Hussein, and he has a lot of insight, even more than the people who have eyes, and we called him the dean of the Arabic teacher. So we have the connection from the very beginning. And he took his PhD in France and came to inaugurate this in Cairo University and became a professor of history. And this is our man. And he was, and still, a very influential person in the Arabic world, whole of Arabic world, because of his ideas and interest in the Islamic, Arabic, and Greek Roman. He was saying that this is our heritage, not only the Arabic, even though he was graduated from Al-Azhar University. So this is a very good model to have to start our discipline. So, but what we are lacking, first of all, we don't have libraries in all these departments, no specialized libraries. We don't have lexica. Of course, LSJ for all of us, but this is a problem. This is again a problem. I'm graduated from the Faculty of Education. I know what is language barrier is, language interference is. So this is not going to work. Grammar books, no, there is peculiarity for the Arabic language, and we do have many problems when we are teaching to the students what is Greek and what is Latin. Most importantly for me, standard evaluation methods for the students. I mean, how to say, yeah, I know Greek, but how good do you know Greek or know Latin? This is a very big problem. We in Germany we do have Greek and Latin, but there we don't have any evaluation method for the students. And this is something that has to do with my PhD National Collection Management System, like what we have in the States or what we have also here in Europe. We don't have this. Even though we have the Egyptian Museum, we have Dar al-Kutub, which is full of manuscript, Greek and Latin, translation of the Greek and Latin. And so we don't have, you cannot access this even in a digital or physically in the department. So this is a Cairo University, and they are publishing in Arabic. Who will be interested in publication in Arabic? I mean, in the Western academia. The department is called Department of Greek and Latin Studies, even though they are classical philology, and they are famous for their translation into Arabic. And I mean, the literature, Homer, and all the Greek authors. And comparative literature, of course, Greek, Latin, and Arabic. And classical reception studies, because of this Taha Hussein, we have Tawfiq Hakim, we have a lot of people who have built all their novels on the models of Greek and Latin. So, but a scientific publication, as I said, but again in Arabic, and who knows Arabic, who is interested in this language. So nobody beyond the Arabic world who is interested in this. In my blog, I have gathered a little material, and you can see the last translation of Ahmed Athman, who is the head of the department of Cairo University of the Iliad, which has been published by the National Research Center. It's a very big work with a lot of people who were involved under the supervision of Professor Ahmed Athman. This is a translation. But we do have a translation in Paris, which is done by One is called Bustani. He is Lebanese, but anyhow, we have a verse, we have the Iliad in both Arabic translation of it. An example of what we are facing in Egypt and of course all over the world is what we do have in Al-Azhar University. This is the alma mater of Taha Hussein, and this is Al-Azhar Mosque. It is the oldest degree granting university in Egypt, founded in the 10th century. So, and it is a center of Arabic and Islamic scholarship, you know. But what we do have, we did have a Greek and Latin department in this university, but no, Greek and Latin is useless, is foreign, and we don't need it, and they close this department and turn it into the department of modern Greek and Italian language because we need translators for tourism course. So Al-Azhar University has no Greek and Latin department anymore, which is awful. Now, this will take us to the background of this. This is my the supervisor in my master, Dr. Foden, and he has just published a book which is called Before and After Muhammad. I'm translating this book. This is here, the first millennium refocus, and I can not see it, but anyhow, this is البدء كان الكلمة 200 أركان in Logos, Kai Logos in Proston Theon, but in Arabic, in a calligraphic, this is wonderful what I'm saying. Anyhow, this term, what he is saying here, the first millennium refocused, he's just trying to pay the attention that the Greek and Roman heritage is not just something European, as always has been said, European centered scholar programming. And in his first chapter, he's saying that including Islam, the West and the Rest. And I'm fascinated by his thesis. The first chapter is including Islam, the West and the Rest. And he is saying that, or proposing that the first millennium is from Jesus Christ or Augustus, the Roman Empire, until Avicenna, Messina, or this Greek philosopher, and Muhammad here, so Christianity, Islam, and then Greek philosophy, and also Judaism, and all of these traditions is one unit for our modern day world. We cannot do without any of these: Christianity, Islam, Judaism, and the Greek philosophy, the Roman law also. And in the middle of the book, you have a good survey of this. I mean, for 3 pages or something, you can see how he has surveyed this, and it is wonderful. And he's saying this is the base of the modern day world. Of course, he's not trying to say that this is another periodization for the ancient, medieval, and modern. No, but just to say that we have a common heritage here. Another example of this, you know, about it, of course, mitigated. So, how to do with Greek and Latin without the 8th to the 10th century translation of the Greek literature into Arabic? It has just transmitted from the Greek into the Arabic, and again, of course, to the Latin. But anyhow, this is what Dmitry Gotas is saying, and this is fascinating. When I knew about this Rosarium Greco-Arabicum, this is something fascinating to have this, you know. And this is online, you know, and anyone can look at this. Another example of this: what is the transmission first from Greek to Arabic, and now again from Arabic into Latin? This is the Arabic and Latin glossary, in which this is a project which they are trying to make a glossary of the translation from Arabic into Latin again, and again we land to the new world in which we have all these languages and scholarship except the Arabic languages, the medium. So it was a loss for all of us, Anyhow, I'm very pleased also to be here and to know about this historical language learning project. And this is a dream come true, because to consider Arabic as a historical language is something which I did not thought that I will live to see this, So this is something which I'm very happy to see. The second thing is what we do with these tools, I have done this yesterday, so it's magnificent. What you have here is the Greek text of Peripatetics of Aristotle. Then you have here the Arabic one, and it's wonderful because I began to gain. I just playing with this and began to have the transmission. From Greek into Syriac. This is Syrian. This is Matta, Bishr, Matta, Ibn Yunus, al-Qanai, Syriac into Arabic. And then we have it in Latin. So anyhow, this is magnificent. And for the cultural background also, we have here Munadia. And the Arabic translator did not know what is Munadia. He gets this Mediyah. Which is something of parody or eulogia or something like this, which it's not. They did not know what is comedy also is, and also for Trabudia, he said that this is hijab, which of course very famous for the Arabic people here. But again, he does not know what is hijab is, because this was purely scientific. There is no translation for the literature, The modern translation is for literature, but the medieval translation was purely scientific. So he did not know what is movie, what is tragedy. So, but we got, thanks to God, we know now what is this. This is what I was saying. This is tragedy, and this is hijab. So what I'm trying to say that what we do have here and what you guys have done is something which is amazing, because the digital age with its tools I'm referring to here is offer us as Egyptians and Arabs the opportunity to remedy some of the above stated inherited problems we do have if we make good use of this in Greek and Latin without any language or cultural barriers, because this is in our language. If we were able to localize this for the scholar and for the students, this will give us a lot of work and will give us a way to express ourselves. It also gives the whole international community not only the chance to reassess the methodology in approaching, defining, and conceiving the ancient world, and its relevance and serviceability to modern day world, including Islam, as here as Garfunkel tried to say and express, but also it offers the chance to connect nationally and internationally. This is the case of Greek and Latin and Arabic, nationally and internationally with one another, to catch up what we have missed in the work achieved by others, but without, I have to assert, losing our own identity and cultural background. Even more, it gives us the opportunity to develop and consolidate our conditio humana. This is something very important, not just to, there is barrier from English, German. I respect all these languages, but I cannot express myself in English freely, or German. I can express myself in Arabic. So without these barriers, I can express myself on my heritage, my past and present, and hopefully the future. Thank you.
شكرا جزيلا. It's a Microsoft issue, I think. It's PowerPoint. Wow, Osama, it's awesome. The proudest thing I think I've ever pulled off was actually giving a lecture in bad Arabic in the University of in the Kisima Dirasati Yamiba Latinia, via Jamia Kahara, the Department of Greek and Latin Studies in Cairo. I never been more scared in my life and trying to like make myself understood. People were incredibly nice. But I interviewed students a few years ago, right before the Arab Spring, right before things heated up, at the University of Cairo, and they were thrilled. They were studying Greek and Latin, and they wanted to know about their counterparts in the United States and Europe. You couldn't have imagined the energy and the openness and the curiosity and the opportunity to make in this study of this language a unifying bridge, a place to provide where people, if you're Egyptian and an Arab, it is your own culture, it is your own heritage that is strengthened, and yet it brings you commonality with people from a very different place. So this is your presence here as someone to help us bridge this gap is incredibly exciting, certainly to me personally.
Yeah, me too. I'm very pleased to be here, and I think you will be pleased if you see this. I cannot just can I have the PDF just to do it? This is the Averroes summary of Aristotle, which is wonderful. I mean, this one, you know, yeah. Yeah, just the first page here. Yeah, because this is Averroes' summary of it, and it was done by the head of the department, Newton Morgan. The name is he's tracing all this history of Aristotelianism. So this is wonderful. And I just want to say. Yeah.
Questions? Yes, Ganesh.
Probably I may need more information. You mentioned there is no students from Greek to Arabic.
No, actually no. I mean, there is the Gallics, the Greek and Arabic lexicon, but a proper one for the students in the same model like LSG or something, there is nothing like this. You know. If you are aware of something, just don't read. You know. I'm not aware of this. When I saw this Glossarium Greek Arabicum and the Arabic Latin glossary, I was overwhelmed because this is something which did not exist. You know. Just a few glossaries or something which is ridiculous, actually.
Yeah.
I'm delighted to hear your talk, so thank you. You might know that we're actually hiring a professor of classics in Arabic.
Osama almost applied.
Anyway, my question to you is, so I teach Greek and Latin all the time, but I do not know Arabic, and do you have suggestions of how those of us who are in my situation could integrate your perspective, right? And I'm thinking about doing this as a department in general, right? So do you have resources or things that could help us integrate that, the perspective from the Arabic side of things into our own classes?
Yeah, it's a very hard question.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. I actually try to find myself here, you know? And this something I have to say. This is something which is new. I have studied Greek through the English, and I'm now doing my PhD in Germany in German. So all this I'm trying to find myself and to find out that I do really have a past in this Greek and Latin. It's fascinating for me. When I began this classics in Arabic blogspot, I did not knew that all this exists. I myself. So there is a lot of material, much of it in translation, of course, English, German, but I think in every aspect of the Greek and Latin study, Arabic could be integrated, even in a translated form, just to tell the student that there is a manuscript, an Arabic manuscript of this, and probably you will be able to learn Arabic and know what they were saying. So this is very interesting. To learn Arabic in itself, I think now with Alpheus, can anyone begin to gaming and playing, and there is, if anyone wants to learn this language, he will learn it, of course. But to go on step by step is the best way, because it is very complicated. It's even hard for me. I did not show this example because the translator has transliterated poesis in Arabic, because he does not know this. If I did not study Greek, I would not have recognized that poesis is poesis. So I think it is an easy and just to start, and you will continue with your student and with yourself. And I'm also learning from this, from classics and Arabic. Just I did not knew all of this, so I'm just learning. And yes, it is like this. Just to have interest, just to direct the interest of your students to this, and you will find a way.
Nevin, did I see one more question, Nevin?
Yeah. Actually, two questions, but am I correct in thinking that when people in Egypt study Greek and Latin, their main subjects are Greek and Latin, or they just take it as a minor or in some other way?
Actually, their major is in Greek and Latin. And some of the students told me, what we shall do with this Greek and Latin? Because actually the faculty in which I work is teaching English, French, Greek, and Latin. English partly, French partly, Greek and Latin partly. So the students who have no chance to get into English or French will end up in Greek and Latin to know the modern Greek language and Latin language. This is how it works. So they have major in Greek and Latin, but they master the language, not just in translated form in English. So they end up with Greek and Latin, but they don't know Greek and Latin, and it's a big problem. But I mean, if we as a faculty there, if I directed the attention of the faculty there, the ancients in Cairo and all over Egypt, for these tools, I think this will improve the standard of the students, and the faculty will benefit. It's a win-win situation. The faculty, the students, and we will develop this. I mean, it is a major. They are learning it as a major. They are graduated with Greek and Latin, but they hate it.
Like all their European predecessors. So, quick question before we're behind.
When they graduate,
yeah.
How many, so more or less, how many pages of original Greek or Latin have they?
Very few, I have to say. Maybe they will not end a book of humor. They will just about 200 lines of Euripides and 200 lines of Sophocles, 200 lines of Aristophanes, and no more. A few papyrus tapestries, and just. And actually, this is a fair problem because the students don't know Greek and Latin. They graduated from Greek and Latin, but they don't know. They don't know what is the real Greek and Latin and the connection between Greek and Latin and Arabic. So this is a fair problem.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, but he's not replying to you right now.
And we proposed,
What do I do? I have it online.
No difference.
Yes.
Yeah, you should go to this, you should go on.
And we have Walters on the schedule also tomorrow, and so we'll just get that.
Hello, Philippe. Can you hear us?
Okay.
Hello?
You hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so thank you for the invitation. And so I will now present you the program that we have developed with Yves Ouvrard, which is called Collatinus. And I hope to be able to show you that it may be interesting both. So do you see my slides? No. Oh, sorry. What is going on? I am lost. Wait a minute. No.
Did you? We can see your screen, but so
okay.
it's fine.
Okay. Okay. Here are my slides. That's fine. So. No. What is going on?
We cut your audio so you don't have any echo when you talk.
Okay. Yes, but.
Okay, so when you share your screen, you share the entire screen, not only the PDF window.
Okay, I go here.
So you restart the screen share, or you do that.
Okay, so.
Perfect.
I try to follow everything. I am lost.
You can just. Ok Philippe, je vais parler en français, juste pour être sûr qu'on se comprenne bien. Il n'y a pas de problème, tout fonctionne bien. Reste comme ça et scroll en fait scroller sur votre PDF. Et nous on voit tout, il n'y a pas de problème avec l'audio, on vous entend bien.
Okay. Okay. So who we are? We are Yves Ouvrard is a professor of Latin who is now retired, and he's the main reason why he built Collatinus was to prepare the word list associated with the text to distribute it to the pupils. And he also had support for reading, helping the reader, the beginners, to read the Latin text. So I am a physicist, and so I am neither a computational linguist or a classicist. I am just out of the field. So what is Collatinus? Is a free and open program written in C++ and with all its resources as plain text files, which make them easy to change and to edit and to improve. It exists both as a standalone software available for all the platforms possible, and also as an online version. And these, the main functions that you can find with Collatinus is the usual things a program can do, a lemmatizer can do. It can gives you the stem of the word you are looking for, the analysis the morphological analysis and also a reading support. It also can reverse the process, and you can ask for the inflection of the word. So this is an example. But the most important feature probably that the program can do is to be able to open the dictionaries at the good page when you ask for a word, and it contains dictionaries in different format and different language. So you have the Lewis and Short, which is the one of Perseus. You have also the George to translate Latin in German, and also the Gaffio, but the Gaffio is only in the image mode, so you really have on your screen the page you want to read in the dictionary. The other important thing that we have added recently in Collatinus is the possibility to have the scansion of the text, and it may help you if you read poems, and so this is the usual example everyone knows. The principle of the analysis is the usual analysis, but it is not. It doesn't work with a list of inflected form as some other lemmatizers, but it really works on the inflection of the Latin words, which is much closer to the mechanism used by the human, and so it split the word in two parts in all possible ways, and it looks for the two parts in the proper list. So it has a list with the endings, the inflections, and a list with the stems and with the beginning of the words. And obviously it checks for the compatibility between the two parts of the first part and the last part of the word. So a few figures. So it has a little bit more than 10,000 lemmas and more than 1,000 inflections. It has also 414 irregular forms that it knows, and also 25 pronouns. With that, you can imagine to build more than 500,000 different forms. And what is interesting is that we have checked with the forms that Pedicerto has found in the metrical verse, and about 70% of the forms are recognized, but obviously it is the rarer forms that are not recognized, and so if we take into account the number of occurrence of the form, it's the percentage goes higher. Just one point is that without having extra lemma, we have the assimilation of the prefix, and so opfero is recognized as ofero and vice versa. So what makes the difference between Collatinus and the other dictionary, the lemmatizers that one can find either on the web or on the selling basis, is I think the strength of Collatinus is in the built-in dictionaries, and just with a single click you can open your dictionary at the good page to see the entry of the dictionary. And the other point is the scansion, the program knows a priori if a vowel is long or short. And so it means that you can scan both verse, but also the prose, and you are not limited to the metrical verse as hexameter and pentameters. The other point is that you can have it both on your computer or online, which means that you can also work when you are not connected. It is also expandable, as every file is just a plain text file. You can easily add some lemmas or some dictionary if you have some on the end. Okay, so what is going on presently? So Eve is working on, let's call it a grammatical assistant to help pupil in reading Latin and splitting the sentence in the proper way to make the understanding easier. On my side, I am working on expanding the lexicon of Collatinus, and for that I am collecting the entries that are in the Lewis and Short dictionary, in the George dictionary, and also in the dictionary of Gérard Janot, which is Latin-French dictionary online. And my hope is to generate automatically about 40,000 lemmas in the proper format to be understood by Collatinus. So in the future plans, the first point is the idea to give some order to the analysis. For the moment, the program proposes the analysis just in the order that if you have found them, and it can be a first step to disambiguation if we are able to propose as first the most probable analysis for the form. So it is slightly different from the usual part of speech tagger, in the sense that it doesn't have a list of form as a basis, and so it is a little slightly different. So another way where we can go is to go to do some statistics on rhythmic prose for the curses, for instance, and also we can look for hexameters hidden in a text written in prose. Another direction where we can also go is in the medieval spelling, where you have some exchange of the more or less phonetic transformation of the words. The usual example is simply E for AE and so on. And so it is very difficult to from a medieval form to know what is the classical word that give it this form. But from a classical word you can easily invent the plausible medieval form, even if not attested. And so if you invent all the plausible forms, then you can go back from the medieval form to the classical one. So we are obviously open to any suggestion, And so I have put here our emails, and I just want to point out that we have also built something which is close to the Collatinus web for the ancient Greek, which is also available on the website of Biblissima, which is now Alexis. Thank you for your attention.
Questions?
Okay.
Eric, once you come up.
Actually, can you see me actually? I don't know if you can see me, but so I'd be interested in, you said that Eve will focus on learning applications, and I'd be curious to hear more about that. What do you have in mind?
So in fact, so I don't know exactly what Eve is doing, but the idea is to find out the relation between the word. So without going to the syntactic tree, we can say it's a kind of pedagogical tree. So the idea is still to connect words. So if you have words at the same case, you just, for instance, a noun and an adjective, then you will say that this is a single group. And if you find a genitive, you can search for the noun it goes with. And also, if you have a preposition, then you have you can find both the verb which is on the above it, and the rest of the proposition which is under it.
Okay. Nevin Jovanovic.
Yeah, first I would like to say thank you for this program. I had a chance to use this to prepare some texts for teaching students in Zagreb in Croatia. So it's very nice, and I'm appreciating your work. But the question that I would like to make clear, if somebody would like to work on your code to add some functionalities or something else, would those people be allowed to do so?
Yes, I think that, so the code is open and is also available on the website, and so it's the principle of the open program of open software. You can add anything you want to the code. Obviously, you have to invest a little bit because it's a long program, and maybe not always written with the rules of the best programming rules. But you can add anything you want in the program. And if you think it is worth also for us, you can send us the code you add, and with the minimum of explanation, obviously.
Thank you very much. So thank you.
Okay, goodbye. And now we are on the most difficult part, because we have 5-minute talks. We just lost Mr. Abdelmonem Zaki, sorry. He was here a few seconds ago. What do we do?
I would say let's go to the second one. Whoever is the second.
Walter Roberts. Who's giving up on Walter over?
Yeah, I sent him an email. He only had a 1 hour window.
I see.
So hopefully he'll be able to present tomorrow.
Well, that'd be great.
That's-
Elementary.
Yeah, I was very interested in that
Yeah,
as well, so I'm hoping that we can get him tomorrow.
So, it will be then Dimitar right now.
Okay, unless you just got.
Dimitar, you can unmute yourself. Yes, welcome.
Okay, do you hear me now?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay, let's do the. Do you see my presentation now?
You need to share your screen, I assume.
Now?
If we want to see your screen, yes.
Now, do you see it?
No. In Google Hangouts, there is a
Oh, just a moment.
Yes.
No.
Perfect. Perfect. Absolutely perfect.
Oh, okay. I can begin. Okay. I'm calling. My name is Dimitar Dragnev. I'm calling from Tübingen in Germany. However, I'm alumnus of Sofia University, with which the chair of digital humanities in Leipzig has a good connections, I think. My topic today is Greek and Latin in the age of open data, a contemporary res publica literarum. And I would like to begin with, thank you for inviting me, and I would like to begin with this phrase of Erasmus in his adagia, Aldus bibliotheca molitor cuius non alia septa sint, quam ipsius orbis. So Aldus Manutius, the well-known publisher, struggles to build a library without other frontiers but this of the world itself. This phrase of Erasmus expresses perfectly the longing of his time for a res publica literarum, a state of literature, letters, erudition, citizens of which are the learned men and women from all over the world. We could find the beginnings of this idea in some Greek authors. However, it gained popularity through the dialogue De Otio of Seneca and was revitalized again and again by many up to our century. Augustine, Valla, Erasmus, Wittenbach, Zielinski. According to the sentence mentioned above, I should say that I consider the name Res Publica Literarum, metaphorically, of course, very appropriate for the causes of all open data projects in the field of classics. Firstly, because through literae we would spread, namely, erudition and culture. Secondly, because we make it public, dispossess it from the books covered with dust, available to few people. And thirdly, because we should demonstrate through our work not only verba, but res, the real things, as the great Comenius said. Fruits from the projects which benefit the whole society. Here I would like to concentrate myself on a part of this Res Publica Literarum and to offer a way by which we could investigate it in detail. This part are the letters of the Renaissance humanists, beginning of the 14th until the middle of the 16th century. There are many great reasons to inquire into the epistolography of the humanists. I see the investigation of these letters in two parts. Firstly, the creating of an interactive map of the ways traveled by these letters and by the scholars, of course, through Europe. Secondly, the research of their contents. A great project about the mapping of the letters, concentrated on the Age of Enlightenment, was launched some years ago by Stanford University, and it is called Mapping the Republic of Letters. about the conception of the second part, the research of the contents, we could use tools such as /arm, designed for comparison and statistical research, synchronic and diachronic of texts. With the mapping and the content research, we could conduct the following study and answer, for example, the following questions. Which were the most frequented cities through the period, and for example in a particular decade or by a particular humanist? Which are the most cited and preferred ancient authors, for example in a particular decade or by a particular humanist? How the recovering of the ancient works resulted among the Renaissance scholars? And how particular ideas, Studia Humanitatis, for example, developed through the years, which are the main outlines of the style of a particular author and how they are connected with some of his ancient forerunners. Are there some connections with other classical traditions, Arabic, Persian, or Hebrew, or many others, of course, and many other questions. To sum up, an interactive map of this art which enables direct access to the content of the letters and to tools for an individual research could be an indispensable instrument to look into the world of the Renaissance and so into our own world and its historical and cultural tensions, of course, to investigate the development of the literature, genres and different forms, the development of the language, and to catch a glimpse of the events in a particular year and to trace the whole life of the greatest humanist. And of course, we could achieve many other benefits from researching this part of Res Publica Literarum. So I'm over with this. I'm over with this, and you could. I would like to thank you, and you could find my whole presentation, my whole paper here in Academia Edu under the name of Dimitar Dragnev. And now I would like to thank you very much. And
thank you very much. Okay. So in the lightning round, there's 5 minutes each, so please put questions on Twitter, hashtag OpenPhilology. So any questions? So on to the next.
Trying. So we still have some issue with Abdelmalem Saki. So what is next on the list? Olga. Okay. So Olga is. Okay, can you? Okay. Okay, you need to accept some stuff which is showing, like a green bar saying that you agree to participate in this talk. Because right now you're really dark, so that we can see you actually.
What happened to us yesterday at some point?
Okay, can you hear me? You are muted on. Oh no. I think, oh yeah, you're muted on your side. You need to unmute yourself. Oh, perfect. Abdel, you are the next on the list. So don't move. You are in the call. Olga, we can't hear you. Can you unmute yourself by any chance? Can you read me? Can you hear me?
And after one and is there, it's good. That's what I would suggest. We can't get it.
She's muted on her side, so I can't do. Oh wait. Okay, Olga.
There we go. Now we just need her.
Olga, can you unmute yourself? Sorry, I had issue on my side and you couldn't unmute yourself. I'm sorry for the spectators on the live stream. Olga? Okay, you're muted on your side. We can't hear you. Can you hear me, Olga?
Oh, we can see the slides.
That's a good thing. Yeah, unmute yourself, but click on the red button. No, it's okay. Click on the red button.
Yes, the one on the left.
The biggest one. The bigger. The one on the top.
Outside the microphone.
It looks like. Okay, nearly. And we have lost update. Olga, go back on the Hangout. Olga? No, we can't hear you. We can't hear you. You.
At the top of the screen.
Olga, can you hear me? Because you just have to press the red button. Okay, perfect. If you can hear you, go back to the window with Google Hangout.
Okay, why don't you go try and work it out with her in the hall?
No, it wouldn't be effective because it's specific to Hangout. So
yes, she needs to.
No, it's Olga, just go back to the. Olga, can you hear me? No, there is no technical issue. If you can hear me, go back on the Hangout where you have shared your screen, and it looks really weird because it's screen into screen into screen. Can you do that? Yes, perfect. And there is a red button. Do you see the red button on the top? Okay, we can see you. Do you see the red button with the microphone?
Do you hear me?
Yes!
Wonderful.
You can reshare your screen, and we're ready for you.
Yes!
I'm so sorry for the disturbance.
It's okay.
Not at all.
We're starting to get used to it.
Welcome to Moscow from Leipzig.
I'm stupid with techniques. Sorry, very sorry.
Not at all. Not at all.
No worries. Just
Okay, dear colleagues, I would like to present a brief overview of the course Ancient Languages that has been taught at the Department of Religious Studies at the Moscow State University since 2003. Teaching Ancient Greek and Latin is provided in the bachelor's curriculum under the title of Ancient Languages. The course is not core but compulsory and forms a part of the block of social and economic disciplines. It carries a weighting of 16 ACTC credits, that is 8 credits for every classical language. The aim of this course are to make students familiar with basic Latin and ancient Greek grammar and to form their basic translation skills. Teaching grammar follows the compact Russian textbooks by Professor Kozarevsky. You can see it on the screen. As an addendum, Ancient Greek and Tables and Schemata by Dr. Yana Zabudskaya and myself is used to provide the students with an easy approach to Greek grammar, owing to the application of visual materials in the education process. As for studying Latin, students are given a task to compose their own scheme or table, illustrating a grammar topic, such as functions of cases. In the age of open data, students must be able to use online research methods, so they are taught to understand the structure of relevant internet resources, including, for example, Greek-Russian and Latin-Russian dictionaries. Russian terminology, as it is well known, of religious studies, is formed mainly on the basis of Greek and Latin roots, affixes, and whole words. So, teaching Latin and Ancient Greek implies making students be able to explain the etymology of religious, philosophical, and theological terms using relevant reference literature and internet resources. The second part of the course is devoted to reading, translation, and analysis of extracts of original Latin and Ancient Greek texts, with special interest in Latin and Greek religious terms, for example, Cicero's On Divination and Epictetus' Discourses. In addition, Latin and Greek biblical aphorisms of cultural value are analyzed. Thus, teaching Latin and Ancient Greek at the Department of Religious Studies aims at forming students' professional competences and raising their cultural level. Thank you very much for your attention and sorry for any disturbance.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so next speaker?
Yeah.
We still have problem with Adelmode. So next one is John.
Okay.
Thank you, Olga. And John should be somewhere. Oh no, we have Abdel.
Oh, excellent.
Abdel, can you hear us? Abdel. Abdel?
Maybe it may be buffering up.
Give it a second. Takes a while.
Okay.
Yeah, I had the problem. He's building up this buffer with over maybe a modest bandwidth.
Abdel?
I talked to him half an hour ago.
Yeah, he's muted also, obviously.
But it always took a while, sometimes even half a minute to draw the video to come up, but never this long.
Well, there is no Yes. Okay.
I would think it's a connection issue.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go with John then. Yeah. John, you can just unmute yourself and you're live.
Hello. My name is John. First of all, are we good in volume?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Excellent. My name is John Arnold, and I am a student at Shimer College, which is a great books college in Chicago. And perhaps more relevantly to this conference, I am an alumnus of the Academia Vivarium Novum in Rome, which is the only, I believe, year-long Living Latin institution. And I'd like to thank the organizers for accepting my paper, because this is the first academic conference that I've been a part of. What I want to use my time for is to get more into the details of, or address the question of quo vadimus. Why do we care so much about these critical editions or intertextual references, all the wonderful structure that we've created? In my opinion, and I imagine the opinion of many of you, it's because these texts provide such deep insight into the human condition and help us understand the varieties of being human in the world. And that element has also, that humanistic tradition has also been so very much a part of both of these institutions that I've been educated at and have been and have gained so much from. And from that point of view, or based on my experience, I've identified 4 fundamental parts of education that I think would be important for all the discussions that we've been having in how to educate. And that is language immersion, a discussion-based pedagogy, a liberal arts curriculum, and technological mediation. And so just to explain how I see these things envisioning, I'm going to read from my abstract. Imagine a class in ancient ethics where the reading for the day is Seneca. The students, whose number is capped at 10, sit around a round table with their professor. When class begins, the students begin a conversation with one another. From time to time, but does not dominate the class. Grammar or vocabulary is hardly ever discussed. It is not necessary, since these students are all fluent in Latin, but they're not graduate students. Instead, these students began learning Latin only a year ago. Their fluency has been rapidly obtained through a combination of spoken Latin immersion and technological assistance. An online database has recorded every Latin word which every student has ever encountered since beginning Hans Olberg's Lingua Latina per se illustrata, and uses neurological models of memory retention to customize vocabulary reviews and marginal aids for each student. And so, to just give an example of things that I'm thinking about, I'd like to share some screens or some websites that I've experienced. This is a site called Memrise, and it uses those psychological literature to exploit the spacing effect and help you help you memorize vocabulary by telling you when exactly you need to review given elements of vocabulary. And I see a lot of potential of using sites like Memrise or other technology that keeps track of these things and integrating with something like the vocabulary tool in Perseus. So you could have a text, and you could know all the words that are necessary for someone to engage with it. Make them learn it very quick, accelerated vocabulary using computer-accelerated vocabulary learning, and perhaps by customizing traditional marginal notation based on the specific needs of that student due to the capabilities of ebooks now. And by using those types of technologies, then we could and by using those types of technologies, we could allow students to engage with the original texts in their original languages and to have conversations about the great humanistic import that they contribute to all of our lives. So as an undergraduate, that intersection of digital humanities, liberal arts, and language immersion is where I am trying to make my career. And so I'm sort of using this conference to ask for help in terms of finding mentors, people who are also interested in facilitating those types of conversations and connecting those communities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think you would find in this room a lot of people who would be all over Europe and even the United States who would be interested in helping and mentoring you. So thank you. So we have to move on in the lightning round. Thank you. So who is up?
We lost him again. So
Andrew.
Andrew Dunning. Andrew can. Oh wait, maybe Abdul.
Andrew.
Adele, are you here? We were seeing you a few seconds ago. Okay, Andrew, can you hear us? Yes, Andrew, that's normal. Wait, showing broadcast. Okay, now you can unmute, Andrew. Normally, now you can unmute.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes, there you are.
So, one of the, let me just make sure this is turned on. One of the key features that keeps coming up at this conference has been that it's simply trying to find ways to make our work more accessible to a general audience. And one of the key groups has been neglected by classical scholarship has been that of the scientific community. Now, Latin certainly doesn't have the prominent place in the sciences that it once does. My local pharmacist tells me that when he actually started working as a pharmacist, Latin was actually the language used for writing all prescriptions. And this was the case in Canada right up until we adopted the metric system in the late 1970s. Even today, though, a recent study indicates that about 89% of English anatomical terminology actually originates in Latin and Greek. So in response to this, many universities right around the world have some sort of Latin and Greek in scientific terminology course. This basically involves having students learn Greek and Latin word elements without all of the advanced grammar. And regardless of what you actually think of this approach, hundreds of students take this course every year just at the University of Toronto. And so, but the problem with this is that this has been almost completely neglected by classical scholarship. The most recent textbooks that are available that cover Latin and Greek and the sciences in general are by Ayres from 1972 and Nijbakken from 1959. So rather than use one of these books, this year I put together a collection of scientific articles as an alternative to a textbook. And so I put together a course website, I put together a new updated vocabulary list, and this has worked extremely well. I've framed the course also, rather than have it just be a standard course on nomenclature, I've framed it as a course as sort of the history of scientific communication, basically covering the basics on everything, right from Hippocrates right up to modern debates in open access publishing. Students have, I think, responded really well to this, especially to looking at primary sources in class, looking at online manuscripts and giving them sort of a tour through Isidore of Seville's etymologies, for example. So that's been great. I've also used lots of translations of ancient source material. One problem I run into this is that a lot of the material that's actually available online, since it's so old, because it's in the public domain, students have really struggled with some of the 19th century translations. So that's something that, just to keep in the back of your mind. Another thing that's really transformed this course has been the available of online data. We would have used some sort of list for maybe a list of word roots. Now students can actually use the same dictionaries that professionals do, which is really great. There's, in the area of the sciences, there's the Terminologia Anatomica, which is basically a reference work giving the Latin name for every defined part of the body. And so there's a website now called anatomicalterms.info that presents this in a really accessible format. In the area of classical dictionaries, of course, we have our wonderful Perseus with our friends Lewis and Short, for example. Although this material isn't always as accessible as I would like it. In this entry, for example, on Conduco, you would not believe how many people have asked me what something like 3VA and N means. If you compare it to something like the built-in dictionary in OS 10, this is the Oxford Dictionary of English, you can see that the typesetting is much nicer. There's the abbreviations have been expanded. It'd be really wonderful if we could get something like a semi-updated Lewis and Short, just to make it more accessible to the general public, since that basically is the best we have online. The other major issue in this class is that we don't actually know which Greek and Latin word elements are actually most commonly used in scientific literature. What I'd really like to have for this course would be something like the Dickinson College commentaries, core vocabulary lists that provide word frequencies, giving you some idea of what words are actually most important for you to learn. That's really what I'd like to work towards in the future. But for now, hopefully this gives you just a basic idea of one particular audience as you're working on your new editions and translations and other tools and wondering who's going to use them. This is one of those audiences, and they really need your help. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, man. Great.
So
yeah,
we're the next. Sorry, Jennifer Sheridan.
Right. I think whoever's available is next.
Jennifer. Sorry, I'm gonna more or less keep you, Andrew. Sorry. And okay, you can now unmute yourself, Jennifer.
Okay.
Should I also unmute Jacqueline?
Jacqueline, yes.
Okay, you can also unmute yourself, Jacqueline. Oh.
Okay, can you hear us?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Wow, that worked way too easily, right?
Wait, Jacqueline, we can't hear you anymore. Yes. I think it's good. Maybe your microphone is not well plugged. I don't know. Can you talk?
Hello?
Yes.
This is Jennifer.
So Jennifer, we can hear you, but Jacqueline, we can't. Can you unmute yourself again?
How about now?
Yes.
Yay! It worked. Okay, and the volume is good?
Yes.
Okay, and now you can see my slides?
Ooh, perfect.
So
okay.
I'm showing Jennifer's screen. Is that right?
Perfect.
Yes,
that is perfect.
correct. Okay.
We can do it.
Okay. I want to thank everybody for being here today. This is just a fantastic opportunity. And Jacqueline and I are part of a group of faculty who have been working on a number of curricular problems in our own university, in our classics program. And I want to say that I'm one of those people who only believes that you should come up with a solution if there is actually a problem. And I also only want a digital solution if that's the best solution to the problem. So the problems that we were confronting were the fact that our classics majors had very poor research skills, and we felt that we needed to include those in our curriculum somewhere. But that most of our students are actually, of course, not classics majors. They are those general education students who just want to study classics as part of their curriculum. And we wanted to be able to develop something that would address both of those audiences. And then the third problem we have, which is certainly common in the United States and perhaps elsewhere, is that most of the people who teach our classes are part-time faculty who are very overworked and very underpaid, and we didn't want to come up with a solution to the problem which burdened them. So our goal was to come up with some kind of agreed-upon set of research and writing skills that we thought that all of our majors would need, that we could develop across their 4 years in college, but also a set of research and writing skills that would address students who only took maybe 1 or 2 classes ever in classics. And so after many meetings of the faculty and many discussions, we agreed upon what would be some of the appropriate skills that students should develop. Starting at the beginning, things like how to read, understand, and paraphrase a primary source in classics, or just what is a primary source for classics. And then we wanted to teach them how classics was different from other fields as far as research goes, because it's always good to learn different types of research skills. And then as the students moved farther along in their program, we would teach them how to write a real research paper in classics using both primary and secondary sources. One of the things we decided was that the best way to teach these skills without overburdening the part-time instructors was to develop a library of videos that would break down the research skills of classics and address this basic question of how do classicists know what they know about the ancient world. So we're in the process of developing these videos now, and I hope eventually that they'll turn into a sort of online textbook. Jacqueline?
Okay, if you could just go to the next slide. So these are the next step forward that we would like to take in this project. So we would need to follow the students through the program and collect data. So we started this last year. So really to understand how well it's working, we'd have to watch a cohort of students go through. Also, as an adjunct myself, really helpful for me as an instructor to go through this process of getting with my peers in one room, because as an adjunct that doesn't often happen, with the full-time faculty, and what people are doing in their classes was really helpful. So we want to keep up that momentum. The first year we tried it, we met every semester, so we started new ideas, came back at the end of the semester and see how they worked. This is often called design-based research, and where you try something, you tweak it, and then you come back and you share it. So we encourage faculty to get together every year and do this share out. And then also with the 21st century skills and new tools for research, we need to collaborate better with our librarians and our friends in the information sciences and also in special collections. So those are things that we're going to try and, like I said, keep up the momentum for. And the next slide. So the implications of what we did, and also what I'm hearing from the rest of the group, are these implications to digital humanities and within the larger humanities. So we want to try and incorporate the new tools in digital humanities with traditional scholarship and research skills. So it's really a combining of the old and the new. One implication for these competencies or skill levels is badges. You may have heard of digital badges. They are micro-credentials in which They are visual representations of some kind of skill that is what's called baked in. So you would click that and you would say, oh, this student has proficiency in knowing what primary sources are or doing their own research. And again, this lines up with my third point, is how do these time-tested methodologies and the rigor and the discipline in classics, how is that going to build our student skill? They don't have to be majors in classics. If they go on to be engineers or doctors, or I've jumped ship and now I'm in the learning sciences, I find that my training as a classicist has really helped me. But we need to give our students a vocabulary and understand exactly what those skills are when they transfer or choose another field. So, if you have any questions, since we're in a small space of time, we would love to answer your questions later on or put them on Twitter. And thank you so very much for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So do we have anybody else in the queue? Lily, we never connected?
Well, let's try. He's online. Abdel?
Possibly the number of participants in the hangout is a problem.
Okay, so sorry, I will eject some people, but I don't think it's an issue.
I'm sorry, guys. What have I done?
Sorry, I'm gonna eject some people. Abdel. Goodbye, Andrew.
Hi, Andrew.
Sorry for that. It's heartbreaking. Goodbye, Jacqueline. And goodbye, Jennifer. Okay, so no, there is no reason that we couldn't hear Abdel. So Abdel, can you hear us at least?
It's like we're Houston talking to a spaceship. Are you alive? It's still running. Before that, all the time trying to get here, too. She didn't manage to do it. Well, yeah. I think we'll have to. Hope maybe we can get him on tomorrow. Yeah. All right, guys. 3 days. There's so much to hear about. So many different subjects. It's really quite exhausting, actually. You guys have not been through as much as we have. So our brains are exploding here, like the Ferris wheel over there. It's like, so thank you all. Tomorrow we're going to be. In the next room tomorrow will be next door in the bigger room, so we'll have even more space. So we'll see you, and we've been meeting at 11 o'clock in the morning, and the 4th floor, room 402, which was in the email I sent to you, sort of informal hangout to see other people. I don't think we don't have a formal schedule, but they're here to meet people and to do cool stuff. So if you've been here for 4 days, go do something cool. I recommend you go to the Volkerschlag Denkmal. It's about nightmares afterwards. It's really cool. Or you go to Fox Church if you want to do the vanilla thing.